Let's talk about some of the scaling challenges you
Sure.
guys face.
Yeah, so India is a very frictionful market. And I've always thought that the only way you can grow really fast is by reducing the various friction points in your business and in your life in general, right? So you have to almost insulate your company and yourself and your team members, at least the key team members, from the friction that exists. Which is why what we did was, we paid for drivers for all our senior team members, because I realized they were spending 2 hours a day in the car, which is, one working day a week and 1.5 months a year sitting in the car. So by spending, 10,000 rupees per month for 10 people, we just, life is so much easier for them.
Yeah.
So that's a very small micro example where at a meta level you have to reduce friction. That is very key. Now, as you scale a business, there is always an immediacy that people would say about hiring.
Yeah.
Right? The first thing that comes to mind, if last year we had a discussion with our team saying in the next 1 year, we need to grow 5 times. The first thing that came was a business plan of how we need to hire 1,000 people.
Yeah.
So we had 1,000 people last year. People said, if you want to grow 5 times, we're not saying 5,000 people need to be hired, only 1,000 more people have to be hired. What I told everyone was, if we hire more than 50 people in the next 1 year, even if we meet our targets of growing by 5 times, no one will get a bonus. And so people came back and said, okay, now the plan is 500 people. Now only 500 people will get hired. I said, no. Then they said, only 250. I said, no. Eventually they knew they didn't have an option. They said, okay, fine. We will stick to 50. And fast forward 1 year, we actually grew 6 times. And we only added 30 people in the last 1 year. And oftentimes that was the realization I also had personally. To be very honest, did I know we could achieve 5x growth by adding only 50 or 30 people? No. But unless you try to push the limits of building scale without building cost linearly, you will not know whether you can do it or not. And too many companies, I feel, sometimes don't try. And
I think sometimes it's also a function of easy money, right?
Yeah.
If you have access to easy money, it helps. It kind of blocks the thinking.
Yeah, I feel it's building scale is not about how much money, or building the right company is not about how much money you have.
Yeah.
It's how you spend the money that you have, right? You have to, whether you have less money or more money, that's almost irrelevant to beyond a certain point in time.
Right.
It's about how you spend the money that you have. And I think given that we've gone through fairly painful cycles in our journey as entrepreneurs, Rohit and I have always been very fiscally conservative. We can be very aggressive if we really believe in something, which we've done with our building out this large products marketplace. But we will be very conservative in spending behind things we don't necessarily know the ROI for. Like, how do you determine the ROI for adding 500 more people? It's a shot in the dark. You'll hire those 500 people, and 1 year later, when you want to do an analysis of what is the ROI you got out of it, you don't know.
Yeah.
Right? Same with marketing. You can be on TV all year round. You don't really know beyond a certain point in time what is the real ROI you're getting. It's that famous saying, right? That a marketer knows that half of his marketing is working, he just doesn't know which half.
Yeah.
Right? So it's a little bit like that even with scaling your team size. I think the most important thing with respect to building scale very rapidly in India and anywhere in the world, and this has also been a personal learning for me because we are also young entrepreneurs, we are figuring out a lot of things along the way, is you have to have big visions.
Yeah.
You have to have ridiculously, shamelessly large goals. The barometer for setting goals at Snapdeal is as follows. When we say next quarter or next year we want to do X, whatever that metric is, whether it's sales, profitability, whatever users, whatever metric it is, unless the person you're telling the goal to suddenly doesn't start getting very anxious or just laughs out of the ridiculousness of the goal, you have aimed too low.
Yeah.
And it's only when the other person feels that this is so ridiculous and that in 5 minutes they can't think of how they'll get there, then you have picked right. It has to seem like an absolutely unachievable goal. It's when you aim for unachievable goals versus what you think your company's capability is today, that's when you stretch your resources to achieve scale disproportionately with cost. Right? So that's been sort of the key tenet that we followed at Snapdeal.
A lot of entrepreneurs, they are stuck. When I say stuck, they are, from a numbers point of view, they have raised angel round, figuring out Series A, they raised Series A, figuring out Series B, So, and given the funding ecosystem, and what's happening in India right now, what are your tips, suggestions, advice to people who are entrepreneurs who are stuck in the current state, and figuring out the next level of growth, because there's a lot of mental block that happens with entrepreneurs, that this is my market, how do I go to the next market?
Yeah, it's an excellent question, a very hard question too, and I don't even know if I know the right answers, but I can tell you what I would do and what we've done in the past. When we've also been in that situation, right? And had we not done something about it, we would still be peddling coupon books, right? And I think the key has to begin with how much conviction do you have to build a successful company as compared to the company you set out to build.
Yeah.
And there's many times a subtle difference. India is a very hard market. The supply side is hard to figure out, the demand side is hard to figure out, the infrastructure is okay, not that great. You have to many times build it yourself, right? Yeah. So there are a lot of moving parts and a lot of friction. Now, it's very easy to get bogged down. But I think just from a philosophical standpoint, it's very important for an entrepreneur to always feel that they will not fail. And that is different from being paranoid about competition.
Yeah.
Right? It's important to be paranoid and feel that today is the last day, right? Or could be the last day. But always intrinsically feeling this great degree of confidence that I just cannot fail.
Yeah.
And all I need to focus on is building a successful company, and I will do whatever it takes to make that happen. Sometimes that requires building great technology, sometimes it requires hiring the right people, sometimes it requires the right mentorship, and sometimes it requires changing your business. But one has to be very flexible, right? There is a big difference between having conviction and being stubborn.
Yeah.
And appreciating where on that barometer yardstick do you stand? Are you more on the stubborn side or more on the conviction side? And the sooner you figure that out about yourself, the better it is. The other thing which I think really, really helps is having a very strong co-founder. I don't think our company would be where it is if it was only me or only Rohit building it. I think having that sounding board is very important as you think through mental block problems.
Yeah.
Because if you have great chemistry and mutual respect for each other's intellect, you will thrash out a solution to every problem. Because you have to go into solving every problem thinking you will not fail, you will succeed, you will solve the problem. And if you have that conviction over a period of time, you will solve enough problems that the next problem doesn't seem daunting. It is something that you need to spend a certain amount of time to solve. Right? So staying super positive, going after a large market, and having the right people around the table, whether it's a co-founder or team members who you trust or mentors or investors, is very, very important. And we get reached out to by many, many entrepreneurs who have not raised money, some of whom raise money, to ask who ask very simple, very similar questions, identical questions actually. That what should I do next? Right? I'm unable to sort of get that discontinuity in my business. And the answers are, of course, many times business specific, but they're also, I've realized, more often than not, organizational in nature. Where organizationally they are not set up to disrupt their own businesses, which is what you, so for instance, you will have one strong founder and constellation of smart to reasonably smart second layer in a small sort of 20-person company.
Right.
But if that constellation of next level is always looking up to the founder to give guidance. But the founder is struggling that, shit, I want to sound smart to these guys and sound as though I know everything, but I actually don't. What do you do then? Who do you talk to then? Right? And I think that's the spot a lot of people find themselves in. And it's at that point in time where you need to maintain objectivity, be open to feedback, not listen to everyone, but at least hear everyone. Right? And I think that's the key. And I've seen more often than not, people can break out of those shackles if they really feel they want to build a successful company.
Interesting. So yeah, that's pretty much what I talk about.
Great. Thank you, Ashish.
Thanks a lot.